Fentanyl dealer was sentenced to 5 years in prison this afternoon, wrapping up the Travis County case relating to the 2022 death of John Salem. The first day of the sentencing hearing yesterday ended when the defendant, Luis Guajardo, failed a drug test in court and was immediately taken into custody. Both attorneys questioned him about his social media posts today, mocking the judicial process and posing with firearms, with the state arguing that it showed a lack of respect for the proceedings. The victim's family was also in court today, getting visibly emotional throughout the hearing. Libby Pender, John Salem's mother, directly addressed Guajardo after he was sentenced.
The child that I gave birth to, no mother should ever have to bury her own child. It's not supposed to happen that way. So I'm going to pray for you and your family. And I especially pray that you learn lessons from this. And learn lessons that greed, drugs, money, the lifestyle you were living, have been living, that's no life.
And Guajardo pleaded guilty back in May. Looking in depth, new federal legislation could expand the tools first responders use to save lives amid the opioid crisis. Senator John Cornyn introduced the HEAL Act, which would make it easier for communities to access new types of overdose reversal drugs beyond Narcan, and also open the door to more types of treatments available to more people. In a statement, Senator Cornyn said, quote, "The opioid crisis is ravaging communities across the nation, and far too many Texans have lost their lives as a tragic consequence," end quote. And while the CDC reports overall overdose deaths dropped by nearly 30% last year, overdoses still killed more than 80,000 people, with synthetic opioids like fentanyl involved in 6 out of 10 deaths. The White House is also making efforts to combat opioid abuse.
Today we strike a righteous blow to the drug dealers, narcotic traffickers, and criminal cartels that we've all been hearing so much about for so many years, and very little has been done. And we take a historic step toward justice for every family touched by the fentanyl scourge as we sign the HALT Fentanyl Act into law. Good job. Good job.
President Trump signed the bipartisan HALT Fentanyl Act earlier this week. The law permanently classifies fentanyl-related substances or fentanyl knockoffs as Schedule I drugs, a category that's reserved for the most dangerous and tightly restricted substances. The law targets anyone who possesses, manufactures, imports, or distributes those synthetic opioids by expanding federal enforcement. Cleanup continues following the flooding. Keeping volunteers healthy is top of mind. After the flood, KXAN's Eric Henriksen takes a closer look at what people should look out for while helping with the recovery.
See the creek bed over here on this side. It's completely, just absolute devastation.
Across Texas, volunteers like Justin Hendricks are out in force.
Just doing what I can to go back and forth and deliver medicine to neighbors and help any way I can.
But as the initial days pass, these selfless people are facing hidden threats.
You want to make sure to take care of yourself and also be safe.
Dr. Kevin Smith is an emergency medicine physician with St. David's Round Rock. He says that beyond the usual issues of dehydration and sunburn, the swampy environments bring a flying threat.
Most of the time, mosquitoes are just carrying local irritants. They're going to cause like swelling and that itchiness kind of classically to your legs.
Outside the U.S., mosquitoes carry malaria. Locally, we face other diseases.
Zika has not been seen in our country since 2017. West Nile, we do have a couple thousand cases each year.
Last week, Williamson County confirmed their first case of West Nile this year. Symptoms are flu-like. Most people can recover in a few days, but sometimes the virus can reach the nervous system and become fatal. To prevent bites and cuts, Dr. Smith recommends long pants and sleeves that are loose-fitting.
Our skin does a very good job protecting us from the element, but there's always the possibility that, say you're wading in sewage water and you have a small cut on your leg, and suddenly that cut starts to get more red and angry looking.
Eric Henriksen, KXAN News.
Authorities have asked volunteers to avoid affected areas while they work unless they're helping with official organized groups. If you would like to volunteer or donate money, you can scan the QR code right there on your screen to see a full list of vetted organizations. You can also visit kxan.com/flood relief.
More than 1.5 million Texans could lose their health insurance as changes to the Affordable Care Act loom in the wake of passage of the president's tax and spending bill. That is all according to analysis by health policy experts who spoke to the Texas Tribune. And joining us this afternoon is the Tribune's Washington correspondent, Maddie Birnbaum. Gabby, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So there was so much attention, and we talked a lot about the Medicaid cuts portion of this bill. And what does it do, though, to the Affordable Care Act that could have an impact on Texans?
Yeah, I think this is an element of the bill that's been under-discussed, but is projected to have a pretty large impact in Texas. There are about 4 million people currently enrolled in healthcare through the ACA in Texas. And the analysts I talked to project that about 1.7 could end up losing their coverage, either because of tax credits that have driven premiums down that are expiring at the end of the year that Republicans did not include in the bill, or through changes Republicans are making to make eligibility checks much tighter for the ACA, ending sort of the automation that allows you to get your plan year to year, and just adding a lot more elements of documentation to it that are going to end up, having people not realize they needed to do that and losing their coverage.
And we mentioned there that more than 1 million people could lose their coverage because of this law. So how did the experts you spoke to arrive at those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I think they started with, the nearly 4 million who are enrolled in the ACA, especially because ever since the passage of these what are called enhanced premium tax credits in 2021, they allow more people to claim the tax credits that apply, towards their monthly premium and, apply to cost ceiling so that people's premiums went down. Ever since those went into effect, enrollment has skyrocketed in Texas. And so I think the thinking is without those credits, when people's premiums go up, they're just not going to be able to afford the care that they're getting right now on the marketplace.
And obviously opponents of some of this have been speaking up loudly about the impact of this. But what have supporters said about why they wanted to pursue these kinds of things that could affect the Affordable Care Act?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of the two arguments we're seeing. Number one is waste, fraud, and abuse. Republicans are arguing that there's rampant fraud across the ACA marketplace, and they want to crack down on that by having more frequent eligibility checks and enrollment checks. And number two is spending. These enhanced premium tax credits are costing taxpayer money. And we'll see, a deal could be still be struck by the end of the year to extend them. But right now, the prospects don't look too good just because the mood in Washington is so anti-spending at the moment.
Well, we'll be watching that very closely moving forward, so we might have to have you come back for another conversation. But Gabby Birnbaum with the Texas Tribune, thanks so much again for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
And now we want to is NBC's George Solis. In just a few weeks, Austin will be the first U.S. host of an international event. It's the World LGBTQ Conference for Criminal Justice Professionals. Now, prior to this year, Amsterdam, Toronto, and Melbourne, Australia hosted this conference. KXAN's Brianna Hollis talked to an APD sergeant to discuss what he calls a historic event for the city.
The reason that it's so important to bring these conversations forward is because I started my police career 38 years ago. We have come such a long way. When I started my police career, I couldn't be my authentic self. So I identify as a queer man, right? A gay man. I was not able to do that when I started.
And ever since, Sergeant Michael Wilmore Crumrine has been a champion for others like him. Not only is he on the police force, he's also the president of the Austin chapter of the Lesbian and Gay Peace Officers Association, the first organization of its kind in the state. After attending the past LGBTQI World Criminal Justice Conferences, he was determined to bring the event here to Austin.
Wanted to put together a world conference because we wanted to see where is this working well in other parts of the world, and can we adopt some of those practices and procedures.
The conference brings together members of the LGBTQ+ community that work in all spheres of the criminal justice system. That includes law enforcement, prosecutors, defense attorneys, advocates.
But it's also, what are we doing within our own agencies to make this an attractive place for anybody who might be LGBTQI identifying to want to come and have a successful career.
It's also about making sure the LGBTQ plus community is treated fairly throughout the criminal justice system.
We're trying to be better. We're trying to learn. We're trying to change that because the vast majority of us that work in this profession want anybody who is touched by crime to be treated with the exact same dignity and respect that we all deserve.
The conference will include various discussion and workshop sessions.
Hopefully all of this is that when we leave and go back to our agencies, we're inspired to try to make those differences so that the community overall is made better.
Brianna Hollis, KXAN News.
Well, floodwaters continue to recede, but urgent recovery and cleanup needs remain. Thanks for joining us. I'm Daniel Marin. Jennifer has the day off. New this afternoon, a push from Governor Greg Abbott to add Travis County to the president's major disaster declaration. This while TxDOT begins the fast-track process to replace a bridge washed away by the floodwaters. That bridge is on FM 1431 over Cow Creek between Jonestown and Marble Falls. You can see here how it was completely washed away on July 5th. Well, today TxDOT announced it's awarding a $4 million emergency contract to Hunter Industries to replace the 240-foot-long bridge. TxDOT says more than 3,500 vehicles a day travel over this bridge. Work is set to begin this coming Monday, and Hunter Industries says they hope to finish by September 19th. Now back to that disaster declaration request. Governor Abbott asked the Texas Division of Emergency Management to request a federal disaster declaration for Travis County this afternoon. The governor says the damage exceeds the criteria for FEMA's Public Assistance Program. That's money that would go to local governments to help with recovery efforts. If approved, Travis County would be the 26th county added to the major disaster declaration. Now, Travis County officials have confirmed 10 people died during the flooding. 4 people remain missing. Statewide officials have confirmed 135 people died and more than 100 remain missing.